Travis Wayne Goodsell, Chapter 10. We are entering into the latter days, and the Tree of Life with Nephi's view of the latter days. So, prophecy in Scripture, I'll repeat for you for this series, takes different forms to prophesy of the latter days. One is a direct prophecy. I prophesy that such and such will happen. And then you've got parables. The kingdom of heaven is likened unto. And then you have story forms, in which the story will have some kind of key to identifying which part of the latter days it's referring to. For example, Samson means sun king in Hebrew. That's your clue to identify the deaths as solar eclipses for the latter days. And they're about to give you the dates and the locations on Earth for those events. And then there's others that are just a blatant, here's the time of when this will occur. From Revelations, for example. They'll give you astronomical conjunctions and give you a precise date. And so, because of this knowledge, applying the learning of the Jewish Kabbalah to the Book of Mormon, as it tells us to do, we see right at the beginning of the Book of Mormon that it's giving us the beginning of the latter days. Lehi's dream gives us a star conjunction of the 23rd of September 2017. That's the first year of the reign of King Zedekiah. So it's not Zedekiah, for example. That's the story form portion of the prophecy. And so the context of the latter days is about the destruction of Jerusalem, which is both America and the great and abominable church, founded by Lucifer, whose symbol is the inverted pentagram. And so yes, Joseph Smith is correct. Everything has to do with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That the Messiah will be a human, man like Moses, a Mormon, to save Mormons from the great and abominable Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And so, if you've not been following this series, and you're all of a sudden finding out that the church isn't true, what did you think the learning of the Jews meant? Why are you using Christian Jesus to interpret the Book of Mormon? I was born and raised Mormon and became an anthropologist of the ancient Middle East because of the Book of Mormon. Because they would not give us the answers. And so yes, in so doing, I found out the church is lying to us. And why are they lying to us? Well, the Book of Mormon is going to tell us why they're lying to us. They're going to destroy America to establish their kingdom. But in so doing, they will fall. So Nephi, who is the Christ figure, gives an account upon the plates that he's writing, the small plates, of his reign as the Christ. He appears to Joseph Smith in the second vision, and Joseph Smith is then told about the Christ as Nephi. That's the code here. So this is the Mormon of the latter days. Nephi is in the promised land, as we will eventually find out, that he's writing in retrospect, prophesying of the future in a story form. And so his reign is getting to Zion at the end of the latter days and the start of the millennium. His ministry is the latter days, starting in 23rd September 2017. And so it should have been ministry and reign in that order. But regardless, wherefore, to proceed with my account, I must speak somewhat of the things of my father, and also of my brethren. And so he's referring back to Joseph Smith. And yes, I am the Christ. I've been giving you how I fulfill the prophecies, not forcing it by changing myself to fit the prophecies. My new name from the Great and Abominable Church Temple is Nephi. That is a rare one to obtain. Very few of us got it. Let's see. And so Lehi finishes the words of his dream, because we're now being reminded of his second vision, which is exactly the same as Joseph Smith's second vision. And so we know that this has to do with the latter days. That after the Mormons are destroyed, even that great city, Salt Lake, and many are carried away captive into Babylon. Now this is tricky, because Babylon is the Great and Abominable Church, as well as the United States, or the enemy that put the king on our throne in 2017, which was a foreign government, which was Russia, as I went over with you. With the 600-year, it's kind of tricky, because 600 years from 597 is 4 CE. In 4 CE, on the 8th of April, was an annular eclipse over Russia. 20 years later, we have the last day of the latter days. And so 2020 is the Exodus. But in so doing, we learned that because they knew of that solar eclipse, that it was going to be over Russia, that is also part of the plot. That Russia would be built up and then be the ones to attack America and put our king on the throne in 2017. And yes, this has already happened. This is factual information now. But you're witnessing how the Book of Mormon knew this information because of William Morgan at Canandaigua Lodge working on his book to expose all of this with Joseph Smith Sr., who had to rewrite the 116 pages after Martin Harris stole them. And so understanding the correct church history helps you with the background of the message and prophecy as well. And so according to the own due time of the Lord, they should return again. They even be brought back out of captivity. And after they should be brought back out of captivity, they should possess again the land of their inheritance. That's Zion, the man like Moses' Exodus gathering. And so, this is the question. How will it happen? Because this is a future thing still yet to happen. The church itself already took Mormons into captivity when Brigham Young fled the country in 1847. And so, in that sense, that's how this is to be interpreted, is that the Mormons who were taken hostage by Brigham Young, the great and abominable church, will in the latter days be rescued by the Mormon, me, if they hearken to me, to leave the great and abominable church, and then eventually make it to southern Illinois, July 1840, where X marks the spot of the solar eclipses of the first and last day of darkness. And so, here's the 600 years. This is where they first bring it up. Yea, even 600 years from that time that my father left Jerusalem, a prophet would the Lord God raise up among the Mormons, even a Christ, or in other words, a Savior of the world. And so yes, the return out of captivity was supposed to be 2020. That's when every single event occurred. The earthquake, tempest, creeping death, Moses going before Pharaoh's court. Let my Mormons go. All of that happened. Even the parting of the waters for Mormons to pass through on dry ground because of the drought. It all happened. And Mormons were looking beyond the mark with Christian Jesus and missed it. And so, like I've been saying in this series, we're looking at the Mulek scenario, where now destruction is about to happen, and the Mormons here in the valley who survive will go with me to Zion, because I chose to stay behind and was tortured because I stayed behind. And concerning the prophets, how a great number had testified of these things. All the scriptures testify this. That's what I've been doing for you all this time, is showing you the prophecies from all scriptures, even those that are not in the Bible, that are not in Joseph Smith's works in the Book of Mormon, those that were rejected but shouldn't have. And they all testify of me. That's how I know. It's because I fulfill the prophecies. I had to run the tests once I caught on. Is it me? Let's find out. Check, 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 check. And I've tested other people. I've done videos helping you with other people. Is it President Nelson? Nope, wrong name. He's Mars, by the way. Russell Marion. Mars. So, the name alone disqualifies the majority of people. In fact, all of them. But you still have to run the test. And the enemy, even though they are using the Jewish prophecies of the latter days to coordinate their attack, to purposely cause all this, they didn't believe that the prophecies about me would be true. They didn't count on me, because they didn't believe them. They recognized and acknowledged and knew the science portions of the prophecies, but they didn't expect me. And so the church, realizing who I am, has been trying to murder me. And hiring Mormons to do that dirty work. Because the prophets will never confront me directly. They're cowards. They give orders for Mormons to commit the crimes on their behalf. And Mormons suck at murdering and assassination. But those who fail are punished and lose their jobs. Those who succeed in part, because I'm not dead yet, were rewarded. Financially rewarded. There's money receipts. And yet, the church has compromised the government. And the government will not step in to help me when I petition the government for a redress of grievances in Pharaoh's court. And so, yes, because of the great and abominable church's blindness of Christian Jesus, the world, mankind, are in a lost and fallen state. Until the Redeemer, who is real, say, I'm not real. I'm real. I'm here. I'm not a bot. I'm not deep fake or whatever. I am real. That's why my presentation sucks. And so, yeah, it's weird. Mormons, like Christians, fully embrace an idol god that is said to be not real. The creed of Christianity, the first one of Constantine, he defines the new word homuzion that he created as not real. It's right there in the text. And yet, multi-billions of humans over the centuries, 170 years, 1,700 years, 1,700 years, have fallen for this. Such that a concept of a learning of the Jews, human Christ, just simply is blasphemy, heresy, and of the devil. And likewise Mormons. They would rather turn Joseph Smith into a Christian believer in Jesus than acknowledge that the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith are the learning of the Jews, and then are weaponized against me. They're Christ. I'm the Christ for Mormons. If others want to believe and follow, great. But I'm the Christ for Mormons. I'm here to restore Joseph's church, which comes from the ancient church of the 18th dynasty, David Moses's, of Egypt. But regardless, and so the house of the sun in the temple, Bethbara, baptized in the temple beyond Jordan, baptized with water. It's kind of a repetition, because to baptize is to immerse in water and then draw out of the water. And so, yeah, they get the name Moses wrong, traditionally. In the scholarly world, they debate it, because there are multiple positions as to what the name means. But the Bible gives us the answer, and it's in Egyptian. It means born of. And so Moses was born of the Nile River. That's how the Egyptian queen, not daughter, justified taking him on and adopting him as her son, because he was a gift of the Nile, and so thus born of the Nile. Thus Moses is born of. And technically he requires another name, though archaeologists have found in Egyptian that there were certain slaves who had just the name Moshe. But for Moses's standing, it would have been another name with it. The first pharaoh of the 18th dynasty was Yah Moses, which, yes, is the Semitic Hebrew Yah, the Hebrew God. Even though the Paleo-Hebrew God, Yah, is actually Zah, which is Zeus, the Greek God. Complicated, I know. And then you have the David Moseses, which is the main thing there. But Yah in Egyptian is a lunar deity, and thus David is the god Thoth, or Thought, depending on how you want to pronounce it. I don't care. It's a spelling, consonantal spelling, picture spelling that I focus on. And the T and the D are phonetically the same. And so that's a lunar deity. For religion, the left eye of Horus, the son of Osiris. But I digress, even though that is part of this. You do need to know the language of the Egyptians. And so, yes, I was baptized with water. And I've done that video where the sign in the heavens for my baptism on the Saturday, the 18th of March, 1978, confirmed my baptism. So the Joseph Smith translation of Revelation chapter 12 verse 1, the addition there of Jewish Kabbalah, signs in the heavens in the likeness of things on the earth. Yes, there was a sign in the heavens for my date of my baptism, as well as my birth, and as well as what else did I check? My endowment, becoming a Christ in the initiatories. And I've checked other things, but regardless. Let's see. Gospel which should be preached among the Jews. Also concerning the dwindling of the Mormons in unbelief because of Christian Jesus. And after they had slain Joseph Smith, who should come, and after he had been slain, should rise from the dead, and should make him manifest by the Holy Ghost unto the Mormons. And so this is complicated because Joseph Smith is the founding Christ of Mormonism. Joseph Smith was slain. I am not to be slain. I will not rise from the grave. I am human. This is talking about the restoration of Joseph Smith's, thus the 18th dynasty Egyptian David Moses' reign, because he's a son of David, and restoring it in the millennial reign of Zion. And so it can be tricky if you don't know the whole picture. And spake concerning the Gentiles, and also concerning the house of Israel, that they should be compared to olive trees. When we get to Jacob, there's the whole parable story of the olive trees, whose branches should be broken off. and should be scattered upon all the face of the earth. And so, yes, with Brigham Young, he then had Mormons converted and stay where they are around the world. And so they're scattered. If that has to do with Russia invading America and winning and conquering and taking Mormons from Utah and out into the world, whether it's through deportation or from other allied nations rescuing Mormons and taking them back to their country, don't know. We're running out of time. And so the most likely scenario is the one that's already happened. Brigham Young came to Utah holding Mormons hostage. Mormons are scattered throughout the world by converting in their country and staying there. So that there are the two churches, the Great and Abominable Church, who's all over the world, filthy rich, polygamy, etc., etc. And then among them throughout the world are those who are reading the Book of Mormon and going, learning of the Jews? What? And are wondering what's going on. Why is the church lying to us? And so they're still in the church. And yes, this could be former Mormons who just say, I quit. I want nothing more to do with this, like me. And then you have ex-Mormons who get excommunicated from the church. And because they were asking questions, because they were finding things out that the church was uncomfortable with them finding out, and so they got excommunicated. So even those Mormons also need to pay attention to these videos. They can't just say, I'm out, good riddance, because the church is coming for you too still. They want revenge for you leaving them. They kept detailed membership records for a purpose. They need slaves in Zion. So be careful about that. I also found it was CNN, some news organization that was summarizing the fast facts of Mormonism. And one of those was that the belief that those who are not Mormon are going to be forced into polygamous marriages, women, with Mormon leaders. And it was said to be for the afterlife, but knowing the church as I do, they're going to do this for Zion. The kingdom of heaven is likened unto the kingdom on earth, according to the Great and Abominable Church's interpretation. And so just because you're not Mormon, don't think that you're free from the church. Just like in Utah, the church controls the government here. And so when the government makes laws and enforces laws and judges laws, it affects all Utahns here. And it's the church that's behind all of this. And so those who've lived here long enough know and understand this. So if you don't understand this, where have you been? Did you not understand the Zion Curtain and why they nicknamed it the Zion Curtain? That's a Russian communist curtain. As they're taking it from, different from the fascist wall in Germany. Tear down this wall, Gorbachev. Or, yeah. Because Putin was in Germany, the Eastern Wall there. But anyway, not get sidetracked on things that I don't have in front of me to reference. Let's see. Gathered together, that's the key of Moses that Joseph Smith received in the Kirtland Temple during Passover of the Jews, which is not a coincidence that Joseph Smith planned it that way, to have that vision. And many more things which I do not write in this book, because it's in the book of Revelation. He says that the other book, there is no other book. That's the tricky thing. I've been the one telling you about it. And dwelt in the tent. Okay. And so now we're doing another story here, because he again ends with, my father dwelt in a tent. These things which I have spoken were done as my father dwelt in a tent in the valley of Lemuel. That's the end of that story. And so now we're on to verse 17. And yeah, he's setting it up for chapter 11 with his father's tree of life dream, and then Nephi has the same tree of life dream and expands upon it. Having heard all the words of my father concerning the things which he saw in a vision, that second vision of Joseph Smith, also the things which he spoke by the power of the Holy Ghost, which power he received by faith on the Son of God, and the Son of God was the Messiah who should come. I, Nephi, was desirous that I might see and hear, and that he should manifest himself unto the children of men. 2 Nephi chapter 3 verse 5, he manifests himself in the latter days. So it's not Jesus. You get confused if you interpret this as Jesus. There are contradictions, there are confusions that just don't seem to make sense if you turn this literal history. And I am the same. Presentation's gonna suck regardless of the video, yesterday, today, or tomorrow. It's because I'm computer illiterate. I have to run scientific tests for every new thing of technology I get. And so I simplify it to make it work for me. And over the course of years, you'll see that I've improved on things as I make discoveries running those tests. For he that diligently seeketh, Mormons, shall find. And the initiatories of God, where you become a Christ, and as I did in the last one about seed, Mormons, Joseph Smith purposely had the temple built so that Mormons would be endowed through the initiatories to become Christ and have babies in the covenant who would grow up to become Christ, who would pair off and sealed in the covenant of the great and abominable church and have babies, etc., until the latter days, when I shall come to set in order the temple, to basically get rid of the magic underwear and do away with that whole covenant path of loyalty oaths to the church over the United States of America. So remember, for all thy doings thou shalt be brought into judgment. That's Zion. I judge who comes in, who gets rejected. We will not allow Zion to be corrupted. We are all wheat or tares now. The church has grown the Mormons to determine who's on my side versus who's on Lucifer's side. And so the way to judge is very clear now, as in the beginning, wheat from the tares was difficult to identify. Parable? That's the judgment day, is 8 April 2024, where those who get to come into Zion get to come into Zion. But that's a future thing. We're still waiting to figure out how it's going to unfold, because the church failed to collapse America with the debt crisis that we just had. This is what Nelson was warning us when he was saying in the coming days. He said it at the beginning of his solemn assembly, and then he repeated it in 2022 in October. And Mormons needed to be paying attention to that, and they weren't. It was me who's been paying attention, because I know he's the enemy, and I know I need to warn you of what he's plotting to do to you. And so sure enough, in the coming days, they passed the Respect for Marriage Act. Because they respect gay marriage? No. Because they put in their exemption clause. As a religion, any of their institutions, whether they're the business that are 501c3s, or the churches and temples, do not have to respect gay marriage. And so when the church takes over the whole of Utah, having bought all the land, and they're in competition with China. China is trying to buy up the land of America too, because they know what's coming. And so the church, owning the land, becomes the government of the land because they're exempt from the laws. And so no LGBTQ allowed. If you are living in Utah when this occurs, you'll be kicked out or put into prison. It's not really a prison. It's a torture concentration camp where the church will bring back conversion therapy. It's not really effective. It fails miserably to convert. It's used as a torture device. You will be tortured. This is why our legislature here in Utah allows you to change your identity on your driver's license, and I think birth certificate too, didn't they? So yeah, now they'll be able to identify you and lock you up, just like Nazi Germany did to the gays before Hitler rose to power. They had identifications for you guys too. The history is repeating itself, and nobody is learning from the past to protect against the future. The gays, that sounds so weird. So, yeah, if Mormons have sought to do wickedly in their days of your probation, you are found unclean before the judgment seat at Zion, and no unclean thing will enter. And so you'll be cast off, cut off, as Joseph Smith replaces utterly destroyed with. You'll be sent back to be destroyed, because only in Zion will there be peace, safety, and refuge. So, there you go. Chapter 10. And so, yeah, this end segment here technically should be part of chapter 11. But Parley P. Pratt was the first one responsible for this error. Dividing it into chapters and verses from the original text. But, like I said, I'm not referencing the 1830 edition of the Book of Mormon. And so, take that into consideration of the weakness here. That there are potentially some differences that could be expounded upon had I had a computer program of the 1830 edition connected to all the other scriptures. Would have been nice to have that kind of a program. If anybody knows how to do that, hint, hint. We'll work on footnotes later. If you can just put it into the program where a search engine would work for footnoting purposes. Hint, hint. I don't think there's anybody out there who knows how to do that. But yeah, all of the scriptures, including the ones that got rejected, that are called pseudepigrapha. They're not pseudepigrapha. They are prophecies of me. For example, the book of Jasher has an additional story about the child Moses, who sits on Pharaoh's lap, takes the crown off his head and puts it on his head. Pharaoh wants to murder him. And the priest says, he's just a young lad. Relax. Let's test him. Let's place a shiny gem and a hot burning coal and see which one he picks. If he chooses the gem, okay, we'll murder him. If it's the hot burning coal, he's just a kid, leave him alone. He chooses the coal, burns his tongue, and thus, in picking it up, blisters his left hand. I know that information. They don't say left hand. But yes, that's what happened to me. I was on a campout. It was a Boy Scout, Cub Scout campout with my dad, Father, Sun God, Father Amen. And he was cooking stroganoff, sterno thing with charcoal to heat it up with. And one of the charcoal bricks, whatever you call them, rolled out into the grass. And I went to pick it up and touched it. Ow! And blistered the thumb and finger here. And then the stroganoff, after he finished cooking it, was extremely hot. Singed my tongue. It has not healed. And so I can't handle hot, spicy foods, and especially steaming hot foods. It reoccurs to remind me of that incident that happened as a child. And so, yes, all prophecies have happened. I couldn't force that. See, yes, the book of Jasher was written before I was born, but I didn't know about it as a little kid. I didn't know about it at the campout, that I was supposed to pick it up with my bare hands, that my dad wouldn't be hovering over me to make sure to not let me touch it. But he did tell me to be cautious about the stroganoff, though, but I didn't know of the danger. Just telling me it's hot doesn't. But no. But that's why I blow hot foods to cool them down, or put ice cubes in substances that are water-based to cool them down. And so with the word of wisdom and hot drinks, yeah, that's not an issue with me. I don't do hot drinks. Even hot chocolate, it can't be hot. It has to be warm chocolate. And lots of marshmallows.